Alright guys, today we're going to talk about how we can change the default port of EVE-NG. Now this is kind of a workaround because I haven't figured out 100% how to do it completely, but it will get the job done. As you know, EVE-NG defaults to port 80. Alright, so we're going to log in here. HTML5, and you can see we can log in totally fine here. And just as an example, I mean this is basic, you know it works. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this. And what we want to do is we want to change it from default port 80 to a different port. There's a few steps involved. It's very simple, very straightforward. However, it's not a complete solution because we still need port 80 involved. And that's what I haven't figured out, why we still need port 80 involved. Once you log in, we're going to have to change configurations of 2 files. Actually, we got to do 3 things. We got to first go into Etsy. So do nano Etsy Apache 2 ports. You can see here by default it's listening to port 80. We're gonna first I'll show you what happens if you remove this. So let's do a new port. So let's just say 888. We'll do 8. Why? What? Anyways, we'll do this. Okay. Save it, and then we're gonna go ahead and copy. Now ports. Sites enabled. Unit lab. And we're gonna copy that to the same area, and I'm gonna just change to 80.conf. Okay, so now go into unit lab, and we're gonna just change this. Here, it's pretty much what Apache uses for its configuration, and if you can see, there's a virtual host, and we can change this and to 8888, right? That's it. Now, control restart Apache 2. Okay. Once you restart it, we can go ahead and check Apache 2 control S, and right here you can see um, we're getting errors obviously because we restarted Apache, and you can see that it's listening on both ports. We're gonna assume that you wanna pretty much what you want to do is you want to be able to remotely connect into your EVE-NG from an external network, and you don't want to expose 80, or you don't want to, you just want to use a different port. Even internally, you want to use a different port. So we're going to just assume that we want to access from port 8888, okay? All right, so let's go to our new port. So 8888. We're going to log in. And remember, we removed port 80. We removed here, if I go cat etc Apache 2 ports, you can see here 80 is not available. So Apache is actually not listening to port 80. Even though we got a virtual host on 80, he's not listening to it. Right, so let's try going to port 161 on 80. What will happen? Nothing happens. Remember, Apache doesn't listen on port 80 right now. And even if I go here, right? Recall, we're on port 8888 and we want to log in to the HTML5 console. This is very important because if I log into the native console, it will work. But the HTML5 console is the one that has the issue. So if we sign in, nothing happens. So if we open inspect element here, and I show you the console, right? When I click HTML5, you can see we have a 500 error, and the 500 error means it's a server error. And if I open so I did a packet capture earlier just to see what's going on. if you look here, remember we told Apache don't use port 80, but something between Apache and its backend is using port 80. Now I don't know what exactly it is, and that's the problem I have yet to figure out. I spent 3 days, 4 days in configuration files, and I can't figure it out, or I have not figured it out yet. But there is a workaround to this. And the workaround again is to do two things. Okay. The first thing, which we've already done, but in case you haven't, is I'll show you this. So the site's enabled. You can see we have two. Remember, this was the original and we copied it to 80 config. We need this. And then the second thing we need to do is go back and tell Apache to listen on port 80. And we're gonna have to restart it. So when I restart it, and now when I log in, it should work. So as you can see, I was able to log in. I didn't get any errors, and I'm able to hit the Guacamole um, connections. So that's a way to change EVE-NG port, but not 100%, if that makes sense. Because let me open a visual here that I drew. So here, EVE-NG, we're the client, and assume that EVE-NG is on at this address, and we want to connect on port 8088. Well, Apache returns us the login page, and we can enter our login. But when we go ahead and log in, requesting the HTML5 console, Apache uses the reverse proxy to hit the Guacamole server, and the Guacamole also uses Tomcat 9. Now, somewhere between right here, there's a problem. Whether that's Apache 2, Guacamole, or Tomcat 9 that's requesting port 80. And I've looked at all three configuration files. I didn't find anything. There might be something in the binaries. I'm not 100% sure. So now what we're pretty much doing is we're letting the external client reach EVE-NG on a different port, but internally he's still able to communicate on port 80. And then that way we can block port 80 from being accessed remotely. If any of you guys know why port 80 is still being used even though we told Apache not to use it, please leave it in the comments because it will help me figure out the real solution to this problem. Again, right now it's a workaround. Thank you guys for watching. It was a quick one here today. Just wanted to show you guys a problem I've been dealing with, and maybe if any of you guys have that problem, this is a workaround to it.